Many marriages struggle and end because of financial problems and difficulties. Disagreements and problems between husbands and wives over handling or not handling finances properly can devastate the marital relationship.
Today, Lori and I will just use the principles found in Colossians 3:18 through 19, just like we did last week, of submission of the wife to the husband in a Christian marriage, and unconditional love and kindness from the husband towards his wife. And this is found in Colossians 3:18 through 19. And we're going to apply it to finances in marriage. So how does that apply? Last week we talked about how does this apply? You hear churches and books and preachers, love your wife unconditionally, sacrifice your wife, submit to your husband. You hear it over and over and over. What does that mean? What does that look like 21st century United States of America? So you don't want to miss this episode, so stay tuned. All right, last week we introduced this whole concept of the biblical roles of marriage between a husband and a wife. And I used a shorter passage from Paul's letters to the Colossians. In Colossians chapter 3, we used the part 18 and 19, talks about roles of husbands and wives. And he goes on talking about roles of fathers and children and then slaves. And maybe later we'll go and do an episode about fathers. And maybe I can do a blended family. I can make it stepfathers. Stepfathers, here's how you should love your children according to Colossians chapter 3. I think I'll do that. But anyway, we contrasted what we're teaching you, what we're telling you, against what Joel Webbin, pastor from Texas, Joel Webbin. If you're in the YouTube sphere, X world, if you watch that more than 5-10 minutes a day, you probably came across Joel Webbin. He's not a bad guy. I don't have a lot against Joel Webbin, but he has some controversial beliefs. And he had a video a couple weeks ago about wives fearing their husbands, and we did a few comments on that last week. And looking at the X world, used to be Twitter, they're blowing him up. And I just kind of made some offhand comments, not really meaning much by it, but the social media is blowing up that video. A lot of negative responses towards that Joel Webbin video. Okay, but we're going to leave that alone. Today we're going to talk about finances in marriage, and according to the biblical principle of wives submitting to your husband and husbands loving your wives and not being embittered towards them. I'll read that verse again here in a minute. And I'm thinking about this video, thinking about this series we're doing. This is a tough topic. There's a lot of tough topics in marriage. The biggest one, what's the biggest one they think? Oh, the toughest topic in marriage. And nobody wants to talk about what's that.
Physical intimacy.
Yeah. That's the toughest one. And we'll probably talk about that too in a couple of weeks. I think finances, that's a tough one. This one's going to be tough because a lot of people don't want to be given good biblical instructions on how to handle finances in a marriage. Next week, I think next week's going to be the hardest one. We're going to talk about faith in marriage, spirituality. How should Christians in marriage share their faith in a biblical way? You may think, well, that sounds pretty easy, but it's not. It's not easy. I think it's going to be tough because I think that's going to be the one that ruffles some feathers. But anyway, okay, Lori, get it started.
Last week we introduced the principle of how the wife should submit to her husband in all things, and how the husband should love his wife and not be embittered towards her. We are following the words of Paul in Colossians 3:18 and 19. Today we are going to start a series of episodes, maybe 4, where we give you practical applications on how to live out the instructions Paul gives in Colossians 3:18 and 19 in your marriage. All right, Joey, get us started by reading the scripture.
Okay, and I'm reading from the English Standard Version. It doesn't matter what version you have. They're all good in each way. Whatever version you like, you can follow along. Verse 18, Colossians chapter 3. Wives, submit to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, verse 19. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. Some versions say embittered or bitter. I like this. Don't be harsh. Don't be harsh towards your wife. So I think I'll keep using this version. I like the way it says that. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, why are you doing a YouTube video using these verses to talk about finances and marriage? I don't see it in there. Well, it may not be in the text, but look, I thought about this. You know, you've heard these verses, and then there are similar passages, Ephesians chapter 5, 1 Peter chapter 3. I think there's others. Talks about the roles of husbands and wives. You know, you've heard it preached in churches, taught in Sunday school, you've read in books. But you think, how does that apply to the 21st century people, especially people living in the United States of America? How do you make that practical in marriage? We're gonna do that. We're gonna talk about finances. How do we use these principles in these two verses and apply it to your finances? So we're going to demonstrate what a husband's and wife role in marriage, according to the Bible, according to these principles here. What does it look like? Practical applications. And look, if you don't hear it from us, we're just regular people. I'm not a seminary grad, and she's not either. She's a school teacher. And I work with my hands. I'm a repairman. I used to be in the Air Force. And we do study, and we teach Sunday school for the young adults, but we're not scholars. We're just regular people. But we like to use principles in the Bible and apply them to our lives. So we're going to tell you what we think, how we kind of apply these principles to our lives. We're going to start with finances. So to start this off, we made a list of common issues husbands and wives have regarding finances in marriage. And they say finances can devastate a marriage and leads to divorce. It ain't the number one. The number one from our marriage conferences and the books we've read, the number one cause of problems in marriage is communication or lack of. Not doing it right.
Yep.
Yeah. Improper communication. So what are some of the financial problems in marriage? I say number one, not following or not establishing a budget and sticking with it. She'll tell you that I'm kind of a budget Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a bad way. It's a good way. I have an Excel spreadsheet, and right now I got it. Let's see, I got it 4 months out. So whatever, it's January. Whatever I make, whatever spending I make today shows up in my March budget. In savings and whatever loans or whatever I have, it's in my budget.
When he used to be active duty and he'd be deployed somewhere for anywhere from 4 to 6 months, he would be like, all right, here's the budget for the next, while I'm gone, and you have X amount of dollars to spend on groceries or whatever, and I didn't have to worry about anything getting paid. Like, literally, it was done. So all I had to do was worry about making sure I didn't overspend on, like, the grocery budget or, things like that. That all the bills were taken care of, they were paid.
That's practical application. Practical application right there. Unscripted. She just gave you. There we go. There we go. And thank you. And we'll keep going.
Yeah, we're done. Bye.
That's it. I, demonstrating my love for her, made sure that she had a sound budget and didn't have to worry about it. All those times I was gone.
I had to worry about the boys. They were
had to worry about the wild boys. Yeah. The second problem, besides not having a budget, is knowing how to live within your means. That's anybody. We love to spend money. And you can hear horror stories of people just not living within their means, spending money frivolously. You got $100, you spend $200. You know what I mean? You got to know your spending limitations. First, you got to establish it. And that's what the budget's for. If you don't establish spending limitations, you're going to have problems. And learning to say no to unnecessary spending. That's some of the problems you have. Credit card usage. Look, probably going to get a lot of pushback from this. But I don't think credit card use is a sin in general. I think using credit cards as your primary source of spending is bad. Not having a plan to pay on your credit cards, that's bad. But look, hey, if I'm not using credit cards and I'm living within my means and we get into a car wreck and now I got car bills, medical bills, I don't have it. What am I going to do? Do I not pay my bills? What do I do? So I'm not saying
sometimes you just got to use.
I'm not saying credit card is always the answer, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
But credit card can get you in trouble. I don't have to say anything. No, not saving. I can't tell you how many. If you ask 10 people, what's your saving plan? 7 of them will tell you they don't have one. I'd like to have a savings plan, but it's just so tough. I have no saving plan. Got to have a savings plan. Secret spending.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. I'm not. No, she doesn't do it. She doesn't do it. I don't do it.
No.
But there's a lot of husbands and wives that spend money secretly, and there's reasons. We'll get to that. So I know there may be some exceptions to this, and you can't have a perfect financial plan. Just like with anything in life, there's no perfect plan for everything, but you can strive to do the best you can.
You gotta have a plan.
Yeah, and that's most marriages has no or little minimal plan. So who should manage finances in marriage? And this is going to be for you, Lori. I got a question coming up for Lori. Who should manage the finances in marriage biblically? And what would be some exceptions to this? All right, go ahead.
Well, typically I would say the husband should be the one to do that. If he's being the leader of the home.
Right. Just like God commands him to be responsible.
Yeah.
To be the headship.
To be the headship. But real life, whoever's better at creating and managing the budget and is good at it. So I have family members that female, and she's an accountant. That's her job. So she's the one that does the budget in her home because that's what she's good at. That's literally what she does. So I feel like as long as the husband and wife are in agreement in what's going on in the budget, both of them know what the budget is and they agree on it, then, the wife can kind of manage that. But then the husband is still there and he has a voice and he, is still, I guess, kind of overseeing things. But, like I can manage a little bit, but I'm glad he likes to do that. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to mess with it. But,
budget Nazi.
Yeah. But I feel like whoever is the best at it needs to be the one like physically doing the budget. But both spouses need to be overseeing it and in agreement on what's being done on the budget.
But don't you think, let's say, even if, say, you were an accountant or a money manager, banker, or whatever, and you did the budget, don't you think that me as the husband, I should really look at it and approve it?
Yeah, that's what I mean by an agreement.
Yeah. You shouldn't just secretly do it. And I know people, not who you're thinking about, but I know of somebody that's a banker that probably handles the money, and the husband, she probably tells husband, leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
you might have the husbands that they just don't care and they don't want to. They don't want to know.
You're doing a good job.
No, but
you're doing a good job, wife. Keep it up. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I believe the husband should establish a set of guidelines, boundaries, and safeguards in managing the finances in marriage. He should clearly communicate these guidelines and safeguards with his wife, and they should come to an agreement. They should both come to an agreement on how they're going to handle their finances. They should work together to establish a budget, discuss spending habits, set limitations. Talk about the credit cards and the bills and should we take out a loan or should we buy a car or should we make this purchase? How's it going to affect? Like I can tell you right now, if I make a purchase, what's it going to affect the next 2 or 3 months. So I might say, let me look and see how it's going to affect down the road. So husband and wife should sit down and talk about those things. I understand that in most modern marriages, both the husband and the wife work, and I'm not against that. Now, I'm not like Joe Webbin and Doug Wilson and those guys that say that the wife must stay home, that the Bible instructs the wife to stay home. The Bible doesn't really say that. You can infer that, and look, if the husband is capable of providing for the family 100%, that's great. The wife can stay home and she can focus on her role as the mother and the homemaker and the wife. But I mean, she's a school teacher. She went to school. She went to college and paid college debt to be a school teacher. So it'd be wrong for me to say, you need to stay home. You need to quit teaching. Because, she contributes to the finances greatly. And, and there's some, families where the wife is a doctor or a nurse and she might be the higher income earner. I'm not against husbands and wife working. I'm not against it. So if that's the case, they need to get together and work their finances out. Regardless of the situation. Here we go. Here's ones where some of you are not going to like this. I'm going to get a lot of people disagree with this. I believe if the husband and the wife have two different sources of income, I believe they should have one bank account. Or be transparent about their spending. And you may not necessarily have one bank account. You may say, here's the reason why we need two bank accounts, but
they both should have access to
yes,
both accounts.
Yes. With the,
I think that would be a pain in the rear, but
yeah,
I think it would be easier, just budget wise and functionality wise, to have one account, so that everything goes in one account.
Yeah.
Everything is combined to help pay all the bills, and then you can deal with what's left over.
You know what? The house payment comes out of this account. The car payment comes out of that account. Groceries come out of one account, and everything else comes out. That's too much.
Yeah.
Have one account. Have one account. This is the best way to manage your money. It also keeps each other honest and minimizes temptation for secret spending. Given what we've already stated, how can this going to be for you? It's coming up. How can a wife submit to the headship and the leadership of the husband? According to our principles here, and what we're talking about, submitting to your husband in the roles of finances and marriage. What's a wife's responsibility for submission to her husband? And what will be some of the problems in the marriage if the wife doesn't do this? So if the wife doesn't submit. So two questions. What's her role in submission to the husband, and what would happen if she doesn't do this?
Well, trusting him to be the one to oversee everything. I trust him completely with the budget. He'll talk to me sometimes about, hey, do you think, we should do this, or you think we should do that? I'm just like, whatever you think is fine with me, because I don't know.
Not the budget.
Whatever you think. If you think it'll work, then do it,
Because she knows I got that Excel spreadsheet just laid out.
Yeah, it's crazy. You should see it. And then if there needs to be a change, communicate with him about it. If I want to buy something that requires making a payment or whatever it is, communicate about that. Communication, like we said, is the key. You got to communicate about everything. When you don't do that, when you don't submit, and you just goes off spending whatever you want to, whenever you want to, then that throws the budget out. You're risking going into debt. You're risking into
overdraft, bouncing
you got
checks,
all that money you're paying extra for overdraft fees, and mortgage is going to get behind, and that's just a whole big mess.
And my Excel sheet's busted.
So that could cause all kinds of problems, and then those financial issues will start creating problems for your marriage, and then you deal with marital issues, and it just becomes a big mess. So it's better just to trust him, and I know he's got it, and so when we communicate when we want to, if I want to make a bigger purchase, or hey, let's think about buying this, or for the house or whatever, then we talk about it, and he decides if it fits into the budget.
Yeah.
So.
All right. As the head of the finances, the husband must lead lovingly. And by doing so, he's following the principle Paul describes in verse 19. So some of the husbands, now we talked about the part where some of the wives may not like. Now we're going to talk about some of the problems where husbands might say, well, Mary Joey, I don't agree with you here. You're sounding kind of soft. Some people, when I'm saying this now, some people will call me liberal. Joe Webben would probably scoff at me for what I'm about to say. Joe Webben would not approve of what I'm about to say. So in verse 19 it says, husbands, love your wives, and do not be, this ESV says harsh. I like that. Don't be harsh. Some say embittered. Don't be harsh toward your wife. I'm harp on Joe Webben one more time. She didn't listen to all of it. It was like an hour and a half video about fear in your husband, 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 fear in your husband. In 1 Peter chapter 3. But you know what 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7 says? Treat your wife like the weaker vessel. And he didn't speak on that. I'd love to hear Joe Webb and talk about that. Treating your wife like a weaker vessel. Gently. Don't be harsh. Anyways, I haven't heard him. Maybe he will. And I'll correct it. I'll say Joe Webb did good. But right now, he's just talking about fear and fear and fear. And they're blowing him up on X. Mm-hmm. Here's a pastor saying you got to fear and fear. Your wife should be fearing and trembling over me. You should be fearing and trembling over me. That ain't what it says here. Anyway, a husband can love his wife by making sure he is a good steward with his family's money. Now, we just talked about she needs to submit to me and make sure that she's following my example and not doing anything to mess up our budget. Well, I need to make sure that I've got a good plan and that she can trust me with that good plan. If I got a bad plan, she's going to have a lot of sleepless nights. And the wife doesn't need to worry about the money because the husband should have it under control. A Christ-like husband should ensure that his wife has that sense of trust and peace of mind knowing that the husband has it under control. He's got it. You know, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I will say, you know what, hey, I kind of messed that up, but we'll be all right. But it's my goal as a Christ-like husband to make sure she ain't worried about finances. I worry about it. And there's sometimes I worry about it, but I don't tell her that. She doesn't have to worry about how the bills are going to be paid or what they're going to eat or if they're going to have the money to take care of the day-to-day needs. You know what? Grocery store and everything else. And she needs to know that if she wants something, that she ain't got to beg for it, and that the husband has probably got a way of taking care of that want. And if she needs something, that she can trust that husband will do everything he can to meet her needs. You have anything to add to this? Anything else that I missed?
I don't think so. We kind of talked about it in the last one too.
Yep. So I'll go on. Okay, so a husband, he should establish a budget, or at least sit down with her. Hey, let's do a budget. Let's do it. Let's work it out, and it ain't gotta be like mine. Hey, it should be pretty elaborate. Should it cover every penny? There's nothing wrong with that, but it should be close. And every month, I usually have to adjust it out $40 or $50 because well, I'm not gonna say how much my budget is, but it's down to about 0.5% off every month, so it's pretty close. Mm-hmm. The husband should make sure they're living within their boundaries. Ensure credit and debt is minimized. She shouldn't have to say, "Hey, let's go buy that thing we was talking about last month." Well, can't because I blew the budget. I spent too much on credit cards. You did what? Yeah, sorry, wife. Husband should make sure all that stuff's under control. If the wife is afraid to discuss her spending with her husband, she may be inclined to spend secretly. So husband got to make sure that she ain't fearful about her spending. Last but not least, the husband should make sure that they are giving everything they can to the church. Now, no, the whole tithing thing is a debate. Maybe we'll talk about one day. The 10% or 5% or 20% or I don't know what you can give, and you may be one of those that gives 50% or whatever. Or you may say, you know, I can't give every month because my finances are strapped. I get it. I understand. I'm not judging you because sometimes we don't always give what we want to. But the husband making the finances should make sure that they're giving whatever they can to the local church. That should be maybe not the most important thing, but it should be important. Some people say, give to the church, give to God first. You know, that's a tithing thing. If that's what you do, if you say, I'm going to give to God first before I make a budget, there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you might say, we've had a rough couple of months. We've had these medical bills come up, and now, you know, we're just strapped. We lost a job or something happened. So I don't know what I'm going to do for giving to the church. Try to do the best you can. The wife of a Christ-centered husband is one who is ruled by Christ will not have to worry about finances in her marriage. The wife of a Christ-centered husband will have the peace knowing that her husband is doing his best to manage the finances in a Christ-like manner. The husband is leading her in financial stability and being guided by the Spirit of Christ. There are some marriages, however, where the husband does not lead in this role. And either the wife has to manage the finances or no one does. So we're not talking about the wife's an accountant or a bank manager or
just good with money.
Yeah, just good with money. Knows how to do spreadsheets. We're talking about the husband that just doesn't care. Just have no concept of managing money. Or too incompetent or saying, I'm not doing it, you do it. I don't want to do it. That's not following the biblical role here. He's not showing love to his wife by pushing off the responsibility of her or just being too incompetent. So why do you, this is for you again, why do you think there are some marriages where the wife is forced to run finances?
Well, there's, I had a friend whose husband was disabled. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I know that's probably a small percentage, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it happens. Or they're have some other kind of disability that where they just are not able to do it, or like you said, just I'm not doing it. You don't have choice. So either you do it or your finances is going to be a mess. So
Yeah.
it's better that you do it than if your husband can't do it or doesn't want to do it, somebody needs to do it. So I think just those are probably small percentages of people, but I'm sure
Or
it happens.
or we're not going to name any names or situations, but the husband might be involved in some kind of extramarital sin to where that's what he's focused on, and he's not focused on the important stuff, including finances. That's what, and it happens. Finally, Paul says for the husband to not be harsh or embittered. The ESV says don't be harsh towards your wife. And verse 19 in Colossians chapter 3. When a husband leads in an unloving way, that can lead to him being harsh towards his wife. And this applies in all areas of marriage. But for this episode, we're going to talk about being harsh towards her in regard to finances. So what would it look like for a husband to be harsh toward his wife in handling the finances? Harsh.
Right, like super controlling, just like you control them, but you're not like, why did you spend that $100 at Dollar General?
Yeah.
Well, what are you getting?
I'll tell you no.
Stuff like
The only
that.
time I'll ask you about something if something looks strange, like, and this charge said it was from Singapore. What is that? It's like, well, $42. Oh yeah, that's there's medicine I need. Oh, vitamins. Oh, yeah, pay that. Singapore. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Just micromanaging everything. Maybe always, saying no. Not that saying no is a bad thing if it's something that's frivolous or just can wait, but just always saying like, no, you can't buy anything ever, and it's always what he wants. Not giving money for bills that need to be paid. So like, it's been my past experience a long time ago, not with him, but like I needed money to pay bills, and no, it was like no, it was I want the money for something else. So you figure out how to pay that bill. So that would be bad too if I would consider that. You just refusing you want to use that money on yourself instead of using it to pay the family's bills. I would think that would be considered being embittered.
Yeah, and when a husband is more concerned about himself and his needs and his hobbies and his desires, and he spends all his money on whatever he wants to do. Let's say I wanted boats and hunting and fishing equipment, and I spent a bunch of money on boats and whatever, and RVs and those off-road vehicles. And whenever she wanted some new shoes, well, can't have any new shoes. I got to make that RV payment, or I got to make my boat payment. You can't have no new shoes. That'd be kind of harsh.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't do that. The new shoes should come before
and
whatever you want.
I don't buy new shoes every week. I don't have 1,000 pairs of shoes or a pair of shoes with every outfit. I have a few pairs of tennis shoes. I've got a couple pairs of dress shoes I wear for church and a couple of casual shoes that I wear. I have to switch my shoes in and out for school because I just can't wear the same pair of shoes every day. So I have 2 or 3 pairs that I kind of rotate around. So I'm not extravagant when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can understand some women probably are, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So he doesn't care if I say, hey, I really need a new pair of shoes. He's not, no, you can't get new shoes.
And I'm like, well, yeah. But
I'm the other direction.
Yeah,
I
she's
don't
the
like
other
spending
direction.
money on myself.
I'll be like, hey, don't you go buy you something? No, I'm all right. No, I'm telling you, go buy. No, I'm all right. I'm telling you, go buy yourself something. I have to drag her. Come on, let's go. We're gonna buy you something. We're gonna buy you
We're going
something.
to the store to get you something.
But anyway, I'm not saying it's making me special or anything, but she's pretty low
maintenance.
low maintenance. Yeah, I said low maintenance. Okay. A husband shouldn't make his wife beg for money. A husband shouldn't constantly say no to his wife's request to spend money if it's reasonable. If he says no, there should be a good reason, and it should apply the same for him. When he wants something, he should think, I just told her no. Maybe I need to tell myself no. A wife shouldn't be in constant fear of spending money that her husband is going to be harsh towards her, going to yell at her and berate her, and maybe even be physically abusive towards her if she spends money without him knowing it. She shouldn't have to worry about that. A husband shouldn't hide money from his wife or lie to her about the financial situation. So y'all thought I was gonna say the wife needs to just submit to the husband and everything. It's gonna be all about beating down the wife, and I'm kind of being hard on the husbands here too. I'm doing it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it looks like in a 21st century marriage, according to the Bible. A husband should not put his own needs above hers. The wife's needs need to, some people say equal. I say she should be more important than me. I take care of her before I take care of my own wants and desires. The husband the wife shouldn't have to worry about health insurance or whatever needs, Well, I'd like to go have this, procedure, my shoulder's been hurting me forever, but, we don't have insurance. We don't have insurance. I need to have this surgery or this procedure, but my husband won't give me insurance. I mean, I'm sure that some people go through that. She shouldn't have to worry about that. I need to go to the doctor, but we don't have insurance. Those are things that the husband needs to work out. Lori, I need to clarify something because I've heard her say this in the videos, and I thought about it. I'm like, maybe it might sound bad, but she often talks about how she has a spending account, and I get put money in her spending account. We're going to clarify this, but I'm going to ask her something first. Is it wrong for like what we do is for a wife to have a separate spending account controlled by the husband?
No, because like I said, he controls the budget, and my whole paycheck goes into the budget. His whole paycheck goes into the budget.
Right, we both do.
So, and he knows how much is in there. He knows what bills are coming out. He knows when they're coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows how much we spend on gas. He knows how much we spend on groceries, all that stuff. So he knows. So he gives me money like a little bit every week, and I kind of know about how much he's going to put in there usually. And I have some things I have to pay. Like I've got a little credit card I'm paying on. My son has a school loan I'm paying on with my spending account. Some little subscriptions, like some vitamins that I take and some other
All you women
things,
have that stuff. All you women have them subscriptions and them little special things you buy on a special website.
I've got they're menopause vitamins.
All right. Anyway.
So I have, some little things like that, and so he knows how much, kind of those regular things that I'm spending money on. He knows what that is too. So he makes sure I have money in there for that. And then if I want to go to Seven Brew or go to Starbucks or go eat lunch with my people at school. On the rare days we have a PD, we actually have an hour for lunch. Because on a regular school day, I'm good to get 30 minutes for lunch. But, sometimes if we're having a work day, we can go out somewhere and get lunch. It just gives me the freedom to do that. And I don't have to go, honey, can I go to lunch today? I don't have to ask him because he's like, I've already got money in there. So as long as I got money in there, I know I can do that. And, he'll go to Burger King or whatever, and that comes out of the main account because he knows how much money's in there and he knows whether he can do that or not. I don't. So that's why I like having my spending account because I don't have to worry about that. If I want to go Burger King, it comes out of my spending account or whatever. So I think it's a good compromise. Because it does allow me to have freedom to do the little things that I want to do.
Do you ever think like, well, I hope he puts enough money in my account?
No. And there have been times where I'm like, hey, this payment's coming out. Can you put an extra $50 in there? And he will. He's never said no. Too bad. It's gonna bounce.
And sometimes I just know, okay, hey, I better put some more money in there because something's about to come out.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let me put a little more context to that. Maybe add on to what she said. She said, I know her expenses, and I take that into consideration. We do have 2 accounts in the same bank.
So we can both see how much is in both accounts.
Yeah. We have the main account where 85% of our expenses come from, then her account where maybe like 10 or 15% comes from. And we do have a savings account, and I do try to make sure that is taken care of. She has some of the spending in her account is for some bills, like you said. She's helping her oldest boy pay off a school loan. She uses the account to buy the stuff on these special websites. All you women have these special websites you go to buy all your special things, your special cleaning supplies you can't buy at Walmart and all that stuff. So I can make sure she's got all the money she needs to buy all the special stuff that she needs, the vitamins and the supplements and the special cleaning supplies and all that stuff. I make sure she got the money she needs to buy that stuff. Sometimes she gets active in one of them side jobs, like kind of like in the days when I was growing up. Maybe your mom or your grandma used to do Avon.
My mom
now they got all kinds of different. She can do a side job selling the cleaning products, and I make sure she has enough money to help her with that stuff. She uses her spending account for all stuff like that. Now I do make sure she has enough money to enjoy herself, and if she wants to buy something that out of the ordinary, I'll give her some money for that. So to put things into context, I put more than enough money in her spending account than she needs. And compared to my spending and her spending, not that I'm not saying this in a bad way, she spends a lot more money than I do. But she's a school teacher, and a lot of times she just can't bring her lunch to school, and she has times where you just got to break away and go to the Sonic or the Mexican place or whatever, and
buy candy.
She said go to the coffee shop.
Buy candy to bribe the kids with.
Yeah. I don't spend a lot of money on myself. I make sure she spends more money than I do from her own account. So that make sure she's taken care of there. She wants something that will push her spending account farther than it is. I will add stuff to it if I can. I was like, well, can't do it this month, but wait until the first of the month, or wait until another couple weeks. Or sometimes if I have to, I'll just take something out of savings. It's something she really needs. So I think it's good for a wife to have her own little spending account and the husband to control it if the husband is doing a good role with managing the budget. And it's not a bad thing, it's like, when I'm giving you an allowance, you better stay within that allowance, woman. Mm-hmm. Don't be begging. This is your allowance, that's it. That's not what we're doing here. Yep. That's not what we're advocating. So Lori, let's get to wrap this up.
So wives should be in submission to the husband's leadership in the family finances. Trust your husband to lead. Stay within the guidelines he establishes for you. Keep him informed so he can make the best possible financial decisions. Don't subvert your husband's leadership. Don't develop secret spending habits.
Yeah.
Don't abuse your limits. Don't complain or nag or be unruly. in regard to the financial decisions he makes, and don't rebel against him.
Yeah, and then so I'm going to summarize what we talked about with husbands. Husbands should lead the family finances in a way that honors the Lord Jesus Christ, provides for the needs of the family, and where she don't have to worry. And she knows the husband's got it. And she can go to sleep at night knowing that she ain't got to worry about money. Make sure your wife is cared for and provided for financially in such a way that she doesn't have to worry about money issues. She shouldn't have to worry about the bills getting paid. She shouldn't have to worry about things that she needs to buy for the family needs. She shouldn't have to take responsibility. The wife should not have to take responsibility of the financial planning because the husband is not capable of doing so. He's too incompetent or just doesn't want to. She shouldn't have to do that. She shouldn't, like we said in the last video, she shouldn't have to wear the pants because the husband refuses to.
Mm-hmm.
A wife shouldn't be fearful of spending money or asking for money from her husband. The husband should ensure that his wife has full access to the finances and the ability to buy what she needs and wants within the means of the budget. The husband shouldn't make his wife beg for money or have unrealistic spending accounts. Like we talk about her spending account, it should be realistic and it should be something that she's content with. If there is a separate account, it should be sufficient to meet her needs. The husband shouldn't be consistently criticizing his wife over her spending habits. If there's, like I said, if there's something that doesn't look right, hey, what was it? $55 charge. You said, okay, yeah, it was for us. Okay. It just showed up weird in the bank account. Because sometimes, you know how it is when you buy something, the way it shows up in the bank is different. But you shouldn't say, why'd you spend $3 at the coffee shop, or why'd you spend $25 at the Walmart? You know, it shouldn't be over and over, constantly nagging and fussing and fussing. Shouldn't do that. The wife should be at ease, knowing that her husband is doing everything he can to ensure she's taken care of financially. And she has the freedom to spend money as she needs to, and she don't have to worry about any consequences for spending money. So that's it. You have anything to add or anything that we didn't cover?
I think so.
Well, we hope that you have made it this far with us, and we hope that you've gained some insight. Hey, if there's something you didn't like, please comment. Or if you have any questions, comment as well. And next week, we're going to talk about spirituality and faith in a marriage. And we do believe that we do this on a Christ-centered basis. We are Christian marriage and family. So we believe that the marriage should be run in a Christian way. So we're going to be primarily speaking on sharing your Christian faith together next week. But I'm also going to talk about the unequally yoked part. So thank you for watching, and hey, like and subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you, and God bless you.